Hello and welcome. You're watching the France 24 debate. I'm François Picard. The whole planet's watching as an irresistible force now appears on course to collide with an unmovable object. On the one hand, it's payback time for all that money that governments borrowed to battle the recession. The latest illustrations coming this Wednesday from Tokyo, Moody's downgrading Japan's credit rating a notch. And here in Paris, where it's France's turn to unveil austerity measures. Unsustainable debt is the unmovable object. Unsustained growth is the irresistible force. France revising its expectations in that department downward, one day after signs that German manufacturing could slow significantly. We're also getting a similar story out of China. Question begs, have politicians jumped the gun? Can you go full speed ahead with austerity with the prospect of a double-dip recession staring our planet in the face? Today in the France 24 debate, going for broke. We're talking about it with Bolash Egerts of the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Welcome to the show. Also with us, Michel Martinez, chief economist at French bank Société Générale, SocGen for Americans and British. Marjorie Alexandre of French Trade Union Confederation Force Ouvrière. Welcome. And we want to welcome from London, Jan Randolph of market analysts, IHS Global Insight, and from New York City, Georges Hugeux. He runs commercial bank Galileo Global Advisors. Now, by the way, you two have been weighing in on the conversation on the France 24 debate Facebook page. We'll look at some of your comments in a moment. You can also react on Twitter, our handle at FrançoisF24. Now, budget cuts and closed tax loopholes announced just a short while ago. You saw it on France 24 by the French Prime Minister. Cuts coupled with the prospect of slowing growth, 0.25% lower than expected for this year, 0.5% lower for 2012.
Naturally, because of the new growth estimates, we have to face a new challenge. A reduced growth means less tax revenue for the state. We have to take this into account when we are looking at and measuring the public finances.
Now, before we go to our panel, let's go on the telephone to Michel de Fabiani of the Franco-British Chamber of Commerce. He joins us now. Thanks for being with us. With the members of the Chamber of Commerce, what's the feedback that you're getting? Does it smell like there's a new recession on the way?
Well, it's very much depending on which companies you are talking to. If you talk to British companies producing from the UK, for instance, they are very much helped by the pound, the low level of the pound. If you talk to companies operating in France, producing in France, but exporting to outside France, to emerging markets especially, the situation is not bad. The situation is much more difficult for small and medium-sized companies who could be squeezed between a credit problem and a low local market.
And Michel de Fabiani, do those companies, since 2008, when the recession first hit, have they been able to come up for air? Or do they have the backbone to hang on this time around if we do go dip into recession?
I believe that the companies have gone through the crisis, and they might go again. Now, it's very much depending on the credit facilities which they will be able to obtain from banks. Especially SMEs are very much in the hands of the banks in the end.
All right, Michel de Fabiani, thanks for joining us. Thanks for that. I want to get the reaction from you, Marjorie Alexandre, to that. Does it feel among the members of your union that how much are they feeling the pinch? Are they feeling it worse than, say, in 2008, 2009? Better? Is there things improving, getting worse?
Of course, our members, and I think that it is true for many people in France, they are feeling that the situation is going worse and worse and worse, because the crisis we are talking about today is the crisis of austerity. This austerity caused job cuts. And you said that some measures were just announced by our Prime Minister, but austerity has begun long ago in France. It began far before 2008 with the general revision of public policies, for example, which had disastrous effects on the public services in terms of functioning. So, of course, right at the moment, our members are feeling that...
they're feeling stretched.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Not just France, by the way, where there's worries. We can look at the front page of the International Herald Tribune this Wednesday, warning of slowing growth in the two countries that really have been carrying the can of late, China and Germany. And if you take a look at a graph that will show up for you there, courtesy of the Financial Times, this shows purchases made by manufacturers in Germany. And there you see the composite index in orange, and in red there is the manufacturing index, and it's heading downwards again. Ian Randolph, is recession on the way?
We're not forecasting that, but we are seeing slowdowns. First of all, in the emerging markets themselves, China deliberately trying to cool its economy, and then we get a lagged effect to Germany, a big exporter to China, and those who export to Germany itself, including those countries surrounding Germany. So we're all feeling the lagged effects of that. But I think what's also happening is there is greater caution amongst consumers, amongst investors, because they're hearing about sovereign debt crises. They're worried about the global economy. And that caution is self-feeding. And it doesn't provide the support for consumption support we really need.
That's interesting. Morale, an important aspect of all this, Michel Martinez.
Yes, if we can just look back at the chart you have shown just a moment, what is interesting in the figures, which represents the confidence of the businesses, is that it shows that growth is faltering, that growth is slowing down, that's sure. But these figures are not consistent with a double dip. They are consistent with, in fact, still firm growth. In Germany, we had today a very interesting indicator which has been published, the I4 index, which dropped strongly, but when we look at the level of the index.
So you don't think we're heading for recession?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that up to date, what we see in the figures is that the economy is slowing down. It's true. It's also linked to the fiscal tightening that we see in many countries. It's also linked to the monetary tightening that we have seen in the emerging countries. But what the risk is that the stress on the financial markets weakens the banking sector, and that at this point it becomes self-fulfilling, and that's what we see is a credit crunch, and that's the main risk. But that's not what we see today. So what is very important is that in the coming weeks, in the coming month, the monetary authorities and budgetary authorities, the political leaders, that they take action to avoid this scenario.
All right, taking action. Georges Jujeu, I know that the markets in the U.S. are waiting on the chairman of the Federal Reserve, who's supposed to make a statement later in the week. Do you think that as things stand now, politicians and central bankers know what to do?
Certainly not in the United States, because we don't have the consensus in Congress between what the French budget seems to be indicating, which is an increase in the revenues and a decrease in the cost, which is a balanced way to organize. And because the Republicans refuse to have an increase in the taxes, we are having a blockage at the moment of the political consensus for the 2012 budget. I am not expecting a lot from the Federal Reserve, since the chairman has announced that he would keep the interest rates at 0% for the next 2 years, I have lost confidence in the Federal Reserve.
And do you worry as well, the way Michel Martinez does, of a credit crunch, a fresh one?
I am not so convinced that we will have a credit crunch. What I think, because when I see the situation of the banks, there will certainly be a need for recapitalization of some of the banks. But at the moment, what I would more expect is, and I see that in the budget in France as it is organized, but we see that in the US, there is a limit to the way you can beat up individuals, households, consumers. They are the engine of consumption, which itself is the engine of the economy. And I see an increased tendency to tax and increase the cost and putting households in difficulty. That might be a short-term solution. Long-term, it goes into depression.
Let me ask you about this, Bolas Egert. We're at the heart of the matter here. Is there the fear with the measures that are being pondered that we might kill consumption, that we might kill the recovery?
I do also think that we don't really have a trade-off that fiscal consolidation will result in low growth compared to high growth, but the counterfactual is more like a surrendered crisis. And if France really wants to avoid that, the country has to go through a fiscal consolidation, which we think has the right pace. And now what the government is doing is actually he's trying to reassure the markets, giving some credibility to the fiscal plan, because the basic problem of France's public finances is the lack of credibility. There are no rules that target directly the deficit, and basically the point when doing fiscal consolidation is to target spending and revenue items which has the lowest impact on growth. So, and basically the items with the highest multipliers are public investment and consumption. So if you touch taxes and transfers a little bit here and there, you might be on a safer side.
All right, Jan Randolph, is it possible perhaps to do a bit of cutting here, a little bit there, and that can perhaps set everyone on the right path?
Yeah, I think it is possible. It's a very delicate task. It involves being careful about what you cut, where you raise revenue, and how you do that over time. But what we don't want is to slam on the fiscal brakes and then stall growth, because that simply makes the position even worse.
And is that where we're heading?
Growth. I'm not suggesting it is. I think what we are overlooking a little is that the debt issues and the fiscal issues are important. They need to be tackled now. The bond markets need to be reassured that each government has a grip on its finances and has a medium-term view to consolidating them, whether that means incorporating regional budgets, whether it means being more transparent with our finances. But at the same time, growth is just as important. Austerity by itself will not work. We need to assure the country and the markets that we're not going to snuff out growth. Growth has to be. They will look at growth just as much as your fiscal deficit plans, and that is the main point I'm trying to make. And there are ways and means governments can still stimulate new sources of growth, even in an environment where it's taking measures to prune back its fiscal deficit.
All right, and when we come back, we'll be picking up on that point and asking which way you can raise revenues without, as Jan Randolph just said there, snuffing out growth. Stay with us. The France 24 debate continues.